West Tigers podcast, episode number 337. Steve and Gary have joined me tonight, boys. Let's start with you, Steve. You went on the weekend. Your one word for the 18-10 win over the Titans at Leichhardt Oval.
Oh, my one word is determined. Eddie, they were just determined to win that game. I thought at the end, the Titans came back in the second half. They made a lot of errors, the Titans, throughout the game, but they came back, and we could have given it up, could have given that lead up, but we didn't. So we're determined to win. Pretty scrappy game, but great to get the 2 points.
All right, boys, plenty to discuss tonight. We'll do our usual midweek buy, sell and hold. We'll have the quiz at the end, and of course we'll preview the Raiders game at Campbelltown in between those two things. But first off, bit of news dropped this morning that Adam Doueihi has extended his stay till the end of 2025. Bit of a mixed review from some Tigers fans online. I'm just going to paraphrase some of their comments, boys, and then I'll get your reaction. Avo, he said it was a brain-dead move, regardless of the money. The issue for the West Tigers is roster spots, with Naden and Sullivan likely to be hard to get rid of. It's going to be hard to open up those roster spots now. Jedi Tiger thinks that it'll make it more likely that someone like Caesar moves on at the end of the season, who I think he sees as valuable. The last Ronan, he countered that by saying Adam's a good signing if we're moving players on. But, players don't want to move halfway around the world. I think he was referring to Sullivan and Naden there. That might be hard to get rid of. Tiger Ton said to relax everyone. Moves are afoot in regards to the shredder. Richo's 3 or 4 steps ahead of everyone. Top 30 big changes coming in the next six months. And the snake, Gary, he's always got a bite in him, the snake. He said Plottersville's returning in 2025.
I think you'd be a fan of the snake, wouldn't you?
I'm a big fan of the snake. So there you go, boys. Steve, mixed reaction to say the least. Where do you sit on re-signing Adam Doueihi for one season?
Yeah, well, my feelings about it are mixed as well. It's a one season signing, so that's okay. I don't know what the dollar value is. If it's not a lot, which I don't think it would be, that's not too bad. I'm not concerned about the roster spot situation. I think the Sullivan and Naden noise is probably about them getting the best out of a deal or a compromise, whatever happens. I think you will probably find that they will move at the end of the year. I think that's just a tactic at the moment. So I don't think the roster spot comes into it. Look, he's not going to play in the halves because he's going to be behind 2 better halves. So that's the first thing. I don't know whether he's fast enough to play in the centres in the modern game. And I don't know that he's got the defence to play lock in the starting 13. So with all that there, that's a bit of a concern. But I do think he could be a decent utility on the bench, in the number 14 jersey. He won't be happy with that, that's for sure. But he may do okay in that role.
I think both parties, Gary, probably in a bit of a mumbled sort of mindset with this one, because, Doueihi, he wouldn't probably be thrilled with the 1-year deal, but he's one game back from being 14 months out from having, 3 knee recos. So a bit of security for him. And the Tigers probably likewise. They're probably thinking, well, he's probably in our best 17 footballers at the club. There's a lot worse footballers than Adam Doueihi at the club, but given his injury record and the amount of halves we have, it's probably almost a compromise from both parties.
If I'm really honest, I don't really get the decision to re-sign him. It's a little bit odd for me. I agree with what Steve was saying when he was going through what positions he could possibly play. I don't see a lot of options there. But like, if he was fully fit tomorrow, I'm naming him this weekend. But the problem is, we need better than that. And I don't know, when we've got Luai coming across next year, I don't know where he fits into our side. Because I agree with Steve. I don't think he's, after the 3rd knee reconstruction, I don't think he's going to be fast enough to play in the centres. I don't think he's going to play in the halves when you have Luai and Galvin there, with Fainu waiting to get his shot in the halves. and I don't think there's the work ethic and commitment to defence to play at lock. So for me, it's a little bit of an odd signing. Now, if you're signing him as a backup half, like your third or fourth string half, and he's on those dollars, I kind of get that. But you have a listen to his comments last week when he was interviewed before he came back, saying that he's going to set the standards, and if these young guys don't live up to those standards, they can go back and play reserve grade. So for me, that tells me he's not signing on to be a backup player in any position. He believes he's a starter in this side moving forward, and I just don't know where that fits in our team. So I'm a little bit confused by the decision. I could maybe understand it if we got to the end of the season and he's made it through all the games injury free and has performed well between now and the end of the season. I could understand maybe throwing him a 1 year deal at that point, but he's one game back from a long off sitting out for a long time from that knee reconstruction. That was on the back of only playing a few games last year, coming back from a knee reconstruction. So I think it's a really big risk for the club, and I don't know what the potential upgrade is. And I know he's possibly on a low contract, but I agree with what Avo said. It takes up a roster spot that I think we need to turn over our roster, and it's a roster spot that could be used.
Gary, just on your point there about his comments last week, it's really interesting. Like I firmly believe in life for most people that your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness, right? And I think Adam Doueihi comes across as fairly headstrong, and it's probably a real strength as a rugby league player. He believes in himself.
He manages himself, so he's definitely a headstrong character.
Yeah, well, there you go. And we've met him. We've met him at ambush functions, and he does come across definitely as headstrong. And he, in those comments he's made before, I want to be a 6, and I don't want to be anything else but a 6. And I'm, the positive there is, I read somewhere that he hasn't left any stone unturned. He's really worked hard in his rehab. But the flip side of that, like where it's his weakness, is that he's just too pig-headed, right? Like he hasn't done enough in the game, from my perspective, to be saying I'm going to come back in and show these young blokes. Like he's not a proven quantity yet in any shape or form. I don't think. I think there's a good footballer there in him somewhere, but I think he's got a lot to prove yet, and I hope he does. I don't wish anyone ill. I hope he comes back and the knee holds up and he goes really well. But I don't know. I'd be saying too much yet.
I'll probably slightly different opinion to you guys, but it's difficult because we don't know sort of the salary cap situation, how much money he's going to be on next year, and who's potentially coming in and who's potentially going out. But Gary, I just think we don't have maybe 17 standard NRL players, and I get what you guys are saying about position, but I would say, if Adam Doueihi is fully fit, which is a question mark, and say he plays 20 games next year, he's available for 20 games, I would say he's in our best 17 footballers, which is something that we lack at the club. No, you're not thinking? You're not agreeing with me?
If I'm picking the side this weekend and he's completely injury-free and back match fit, then I'm picking him this weekend. I'm picking him in the centres this weekend. But we don't know where he's going to play. And I do agree there is a good footballer there, but at times I don't think the commitment has been there in defence. And I think that's an area he really needs to work on. And for me, there's just too many question marks around him. And that's my personal opinion about his football. And I get there's a lot of people out there who see him as a guy who should be starting for our side every week. But I just don't see that yet. I don't see that he's proven himself as that he has a position in a team. I don't think he's proven himself as a fullback. He's played at fullback a number of times. I don't think he's proven himself in the 5'8" role. And for me, that's where the question marks are. Like, I don't know really what you're buying. Now, potentially, with the way the game's going at now, he's possibly a really good number 14. And he's a guy that can come on and do a bit of time in the forwards. Or if you get an injury in the backs, you can put him out in the centres and you can play out in the centres. If you get an injury in the halves, he can play that 5'8" role. So there is potential there for him fulfilling that role. But whether that's a role he's going to be open to taking on as well is where the question marks for me is as well. For me, it all comes down to attitude. If he's willing to do what's best for the team, then I don't have a major problem with us putting him on a 1-year contract where the aim is probably to play him as that 14 because he provides really good cover. But that all comes down to attitude and what he's willing to put in for the team, whether he's got that team first mentality or not.
So if you're talking about we're talking about roster spots before. It's interesting one is say there's one position there and you're going to re-sign Dewey or give Caesar another year and you can't have both of them. Which one do you go for? And yeah, like you're sort of not sure there, Eddie. Like I reckon at the moment, having said what I just said, I reckon I'd probably want Caesar as backup.
That's a tough question, Steve. I hadn't thought of it that way, but given the fact that Caesar would maybe not be happy to play reserve grade, but maybe be more of a professional sort of influence on some of those younger guys next year. Adam Dewey certainly won't want to be playing reserve grade next year, Gary.
The thing you do possibly get over Adam Dewey compared to Caesar is he's quite a bit younger. So
25, really young, to be honest.
Giving him that extra year, you have the potential of having a guy for 3 or 4 more years. Where if you're giving Caesar that 1 year, you're giving him 1 year. So it really, if you believe that Adam Dewey has the potential to turn into a center or to take that lock spot, then giving him 12 months to see what he can do in either of those two positions, I can understand making that choice over Aidan Caesar, who would only be a 1-year prospect.
I guess just finally on that, Steve, that's why I probably don't see it as a big risk for the club because it's only 1 year. I'm sure we're getting him at pretty much bargain basement and compared to what his last contract would have been. Where do you see him playing where would you like to see him play the rest of this season?
Well, reserve grade, to be honest, just to
really in this team.
No, well, just to hear me out for a minute. No, nothing to do with the team. For him, right? For him to get confidence back, to get strength back. I just want to not rushed. Like there was talk last week that he was going to be, in the
parachuted in.
Yeah, in the 17 this week, which probably was him talking more than anyone else. But I'm glad that hasn't happened, right? I think he just needs to come back slowly. But if he was to come back and play in our 17, well, I'd like to see him fulfill the role that he'll probably fulfill next year, and that's a bench utility, as I said earlier.
So if you're playing him in reserve grade, Steve, what's your plan with him in reserve grade?
I'd probably, yeah, it's a good question. I'd probably play him in different spots because the thinking is for him to be a bench utility for first grade. So I'd give him a go in the halves. I might give him a go at centre. See how he goes at lock. I'd throw it around a little bit. He's not going to like that. He's not going to want to do it. But that if he's going to be in our 17 next year, from my perspective, he's on the bench. He's not starting anywhere.
Because he played halfback last weekend.
Yeah, we didn't mention that on Sunday night, and I think me and you both saw that full game, Gary, out at Leichhardt, and I got to say it was a pretty good first effort. I know they got beaten 36-6, but he was the class player on the field for West, which is probably what you would expect. But there were certain aspects of his game that were pretty impressive, like that long kicking game. He's got a big personality. Made a couple of good tackles. I thought he had a really good first game.
Yeah, I was very happy with how he played on the weekend. I know I've been quite critical of him during the pod so far, but I thought he was very good on the weekend. It was a game that I was just happy to see him get through injury-free. I know I bagged him out, but I want to see him have an NRL career, and he's going to be with us next year, so I want us to get the best out of him. So I was really pleased to see him get through that game. And I will say, I thought his effort areas were really strong on the weekend, which is an area I've had concerns with in the past and that I've raised on the pod in the past. So if he keeps that up, maybe I'll be eating some humble pie and he'll show that he's that fully committed player that a lot of people see him as, and I don't see. So I thought those effort areas were really good on the weekend, and I thought he had a really strong game for a first out hit up after 14 months off.
Okay, we'll see what happens this week. He's in that extended squad again. So whether he goes around for the Magpies or he's elevated to first grade, we'll probably have to wait.
He's been named. He's been named at 7 for the Magpies.
Okay, so most likely he'll be backing up again for the Magpies. But Steve, it's time. It's my favourite time of the week. It's time for buy, sell, and hold.
Didn't
Steve's
play it last week. Like
I thought you wanted some intro music or something.
We had a variation on the game last week, Steve, which was called Benji or Bust, I think, and it was that game. Luckily, because Benji won.
Was that Gary's one? Was that the one Gary did when he was hosting?
No, mine was the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, he said, "I've got this absolutely fantastic new
Very original,
idea," and it was the exact same idea, just with 3 different words.
Question 1, Steve. Question 1, and you're not allowed to hold this one.
Right.
Leichhardt Oval is the spiritual home of the West Tigers.
Oh, I'm buying that. Absolutely, in buckets.
It's funny. Like I said it on Sunday night, and it's even those first year players like Aiden Caesar, who sort of like, it surprises me some of their comments around. Even Appy said just walking into the gates gives me a bit of confidence, and I've mentioned it before. I think it's sad that Campbelltown doesn't have that sort of aura or feeling around it from the players. It's probably because of their experiences there. We keep losing there, but it's certainly, even over the past decade when we've really struggled, it still maintains that little bit of sort of aura about it, Leichhardt.
It does. Let's not sugarcoat it. We still lose at Leichhardt too. We've lost a lot more than we've won at Leichhardt, but that's no different than any other ground.
I will say, Steve, that's true. I think it was 3 out of 12 before the last 3 wins, but I'm pretty sure, I'll have to get Yachty on this because I haven't checked in the last few years, but I'm pretty sure as a club, we still have an over 50% win record there.
Yeah, it is just over 50%.
Yeah,
and if you look at that,
pretty significant.
And if you look at that 3 out of 12, we've been winning about 4 games out of 24 a year. So 3 out of 12 isn't as bad as our record everywhere else.
Well, this leads on to the next question, Gary. Going back to 3 or 4 stadiums for the next 3 years is a return to us being nomads. Buy, sell, or hold?
Oh, I'm buying that. It's definitely a return to us being nomads. I actually think after the rumours about Leichhardt Oval, Campbelltown Stadium, and CommBank being announced as our stadiums, I think Joel's not here tonight because he's holding a vigil outside Accor Stadium tonight.
Well, Gary, let me just rephrase that question there. Going back to 3 stadium split is acceptable for the next 3 years. Buy or sell?
It's really hard. I'm going to buy it, but it wouldn't be my choice. If I had my way, would be playing a 50-50 split at Leichhardt Oval and Campbelltown Stadium. I would love that to be the case. But I think with Leichhardt Oval and Campbelltown Stadium having capacity set at a total of 16,000 people, I understand how you can't play many more games there. With the talk about the lack of corporate facilities, I understand how you can't play a 50-50 split there. I'm really disappointed in it, and I wish it wasn't the case, but I do get it with how the stadiums are, and especially when Shane Richardson's a guy that's come in and he's going to make those decisions about what's best for the bottom line of the club. I'm a little bit surprised that Leichhardt Oval is actually going to get 3 games. I was expecting way worse than that. So it's a little bit of a
it's not 100%
decision.
confirmed, but that was sort of in the media tonight. I think James Hooper mentioned it on his show that that's the way it's looking. 4 at CommBank, 4 at Campbelltown, 3 at Leichhardt, which annoys me, Gary, because that means there's a 4th home ground there, which is most likely Magic Round.
I would guess it would be Magic Round, unless you're looking at that game against that Easter Monday game against Parramatta being at Accor. That's the only other option I can kind of see other than it being being the Magic Round game up in Brisbane, being our home game for about the 1,000th season in a row.
I'm a little bit surprised, Steve, that if this is the plan, that Richardson's gone this way, because you could say there's no perfect plan, but that didn't stop. A lot of fans gave Pascoe and that a lot of flack for maintaining the 3 or 4 home grounds for several years. Are you surprised that potentially going back to a split?
Yeah, well, I just wonder if James Hooper will be calling Shane Richardson a paddle pop line like he did with Pascoe, because this was Hooper's number one beef, I reckon. Yeah, I am surprised. I don't like it. I can't say it any different or any better than the way Gary just summarised it, to be honest, because the commercial reality is we need to play in stadiums. We can't get away from that. I too would much rather have suburban grounds. I love them. And if I'm honest, and it's probably my bias, because where I grew up, I'd much prefer just all games at Leichhardt, because I think it's the best chance for us to win at a home ground. But I don't like it, but I accept it. And it does smell a little bit like keeping everyone happy, which was the criticism towards Pascoe. And I just wonder whether Shane Richardson may have sort of been influenced by the atmosphere that have been at the Leichhardt Oval games. What have we had? 3 at Leichhardt this year?
Two wins over Cronulla and Gold Coast. But Gary, that was the thing. Like, you wouldn't think, and he won't admit to it, and we'll never know whether he was influenced by what's happened in those 2 games and the $40 million in funding. I said to you, it was ironic that he's sort of the man that's come in there and seems like he wants to get rid of Leichhardt Oval, but he's ended up getting $40 million in funding through whinging about it. So I was a bit like you. I was thinking for the next 3 years, he might use that sort of excuse that, well, the funding's not coming apparently till 2026. So maybe the next 2 years we'll just play 1 game a year there.
Yeah, I was expecting 1 game. I thought we'd probably see the majority games at CommBank and 1, maybe 2 games at each of Campbelltown Stadium and Leichhardt Oval. So I know it's a half pregnant kind of decision, but I'd prefer that. I'm quite happy because I was expecting 1 game a year at Leichhardt.
I think he could be influenced by coaches, someone like Benji saying, well, the team plays better here, we win games here.
And all the players coming out and talking about it the way they have in the last couple of weeks, I think it has to have some kind of impact on it, because the way he was speaking at the start of the year, and maybe that was just to try and get the support for the funding. Maybe his talk was all talk and it was about getting extra money for Leichhardt Oval. We won't ever know that. But I think there is a chance that the atmosphere and the good performances from the team in that atmosphere, Benji highlighting that after 9 losses, the crowd at Leichhardt Oval gave a standing ovation to the side after warm-up. Like, those sort of things I don't think can be underestimated. So I'm sure all of that's played a little bit of a role, because Leichhardt Oval got a far better deal out of this than I was expecting.
Yeah, I reckon he would have been influenced by that. I don't think when he walked into the joint, he probably didn't understand quite how impactful Leichhardt Oval can be. But the other side of it that we also will never find out is whether the funding, when the negotiations for the funding was happening, that it wasn't sort of put to the West Tigers, well, listen, we'll throw 40 million in, but you guys are going to play there, and if you're not going to commit to playing there, then the money's off the table. So we don't know if that's. We'll never know whether that conversation.
I don't know. We wouldn't even stop our training session so they could have a press conference there last week.
Well, we're a professional football team, as he said, Gary. We're not going to stop training for the Prime Minister.
I wouldn't.
He should have joined in.
I wouldn't stop driving.
He wouldn't have looked out of place in our team, the Prime Minister. Tiger Symmetry, Steve, I'm a fan of him as well. He made a comment on the podcast after our last podcast. So I want you to hear this out. Thank you for the latest installment, boys. Are my eyes deceiving me? A tectonic shift has occurred, it might seem. Has this very forum finally anointed Alex Seyfarth to the status of regular first grader? My God, dispose of the shredder. The world is upside down. I've got to say, this guy, little by little, improves his game. All effort upon effort. His mentality, when controlled, is exactly what we need. I'm of the opinion that he still has more to offer, especially after another off season, some added upper body strength and bulk. At the moment, he can still have the tendency to be physically dominated. He's no Payne Harsel for Newell Blake, but I believe through sheer persistence and determination, he'll continue to surprise. So, Steve, my question is, Alex Seyfarth would make the bench for the Panthers or the Melbourne Storm, buy or sell?
No, sell. I don't think he would make the bench for those powerhouse clubs.
Steve has him starting.
Steve was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I am thinking, and I know what you're doing here, Eddie. Like you're like a politician walking the hallways, getting the numbers right.
I know what he's doing too.
Yeah, that's why you've come to me, right? Because you know that I put on the forum earlier this afternoon because I was watching for those listening. I was watching the game this afternoon because I couldn't.
Good of you to watch
on the
weekend.
Game, yeah, I know. Well, it's called preparation, mate.
Yeah, but, Steve was too busy using the hill as a like slip and slide. That was Steve. I was sliding through the mud after the game.
Well, I wasn't in the chairman's lounge pretending to be.
Oh, that was Richo after he hugged someone on the bench. I thought that might have been him on the hill. Although the hill might have collapsed.
Anyway, back to the podcast. So I know what you're doing here because I did say in the forum, in our chat, that I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from Alex Seyfarth. Little by little, he's growing on me. And I'll tell you what I like specifically. I've never seen this before. Maybe I just hadn't noticed it, but he was attacking the defensive line with footwork. And I've never really seen him do that before. And it's just his skill set is just growing slowly. So look, I don't think he'd make those top teams. No, not yet. But is he going to get there? I'm starting to think he is.
Okay, Gary?
Eddie's got him in his state of origin team.
As the resident Seyfarth hater, you did give him a big rap. You did give him a big rap on Sunday night, Gary. But I'll pose the same question to you. Would he make a top sides bench? I think he would because I know and Declan made a good point. He said he's really only played his good games on the bench for us. When he has started, he's struggled. I can't remember every single game, but he's certainly for me one of the players that is on a that way. He's just improving, Gary.
Every time I think he's improving, he'll go out there and he'll do something really stupid. He'll give away a dumb penalty. He'll go out and miss 3 or 4 crucial tackles. Quite often when we're playing him out of position, I'll say. Or he'll give away a stupid penalty. Or he'll go and headbutt someone and get sin bin. These are the things that he needs to work on in his game. I think every now and then he has a couple of really strong games and then has a really poor one or does something really stupid. And that's more the issue I have with him. I don't think he's consistent enough to really be on the bench for those top sides because I think there's been far too many shocker games over the years that would have seen him dropped and made it difficult for him to get back into those sides. And there's just some discipline issues that I don't think a side like Penrith or Melbourne's going to put up with for the output they get from him. So they're my issues with him. It's not that he can't have a really strong game, and he's shown a number of times that he can have really strong games, or he can have a really good 2, 3, possibly 4 weeks of football. But then something happens, and for me, it lets him down a little bit. Okay. So if he can work on that consistency, because he is an all-effort player, I can't ever fault the effort the guy puts into football. But he's got to get those bonehead decisions and those poor mistakes out of his game. And the only other thing I'll say is at times when you're playing him in the middle and playing him in a prop role, he does get dominated in the tackle at times. But I hope he can eliminate those things from his game because I love redheads.
Is there anything in this that he has appeared to be more disciplined and less fiery since Bateman hasn't been in the team?
Interesting. I haven't considered that, but I actually think
he was being poor. Just a couple of weeks ago, he was shoving someone or pushing someone to the ground that he shouldn't have been.
I think it's a fine line with that stuff because you sort of need, not that you want someone giving penalties away, but I didn't mind the headbutt, Gary. I mean, he says Reed Marnie was out there being a pest the whole game. Someone's got to stand up to, I think it's
because we can afford to have players sitting in the sin bin.
No, we can't afford to have players sitting in the sin bin, but a player with a little bit of fire coming off the bench. That's impact that can be. I think that can be harnessed. That sort of rage that goes inside him.
If it can be channeled the right way, correct. But I don't think it's just when Bateman was in the team that the sin binning he gave away a really bad penalty with a bit of niggle and a bit of push and shove in the game against St. George, right on their try line, gave them another set of 6. It possibly led to a try. I can't quite remember. And they're the sort of things that happen too often for me. And I don't want to sit here and bag the bloke constantly because he is probably one of the best effort players in our team, probably one of the best effort players in our club. And if you could put his heart into a few of the bigger guys' body, I won't name any names, I think you'd have a wonderful footballer. But at times, I don't know whether his body and his temperament and ill discipline can live up to the effort that he puts in.
So my point with Bateman, like it was frivolous, but there's actually a point to it in that, like we've been saying it all season, we need our senior guys to be setting the example. And I agree with you, Eddie. I think, controlled aggression that is right on the edge, right on the cusp is good, right? It's good stuff. Like Mick Ennis when he played, with that really got it under everyone's skin, right?
Mm.
But he never just went too far, and that's what made him such a good player. But I reckon that we need our experienced players to grab hold of someone like Seafarth and say, this is good, but you can't go too far and do that stupid stuff that Gary's talking about. And Bateman hasn't been a good example for him, and even though he's our vice captain.
Bateman's been a terrible example for a lot of our players, even now, especially our younger players, and I'll put Seafarth in that category. The issue that I think he does have at the moment is I think he's got that reputation of being a hothead. And I think the referees are looking for him at the moment. So anytime he slightly steps over the line, I don't think there was a lot in that one against St. George that I spoke about a moment ago. Eddie and I were arguing about it at the time. I don't think there was a lot in it. But because of the headbutt and because it's a recurring theme, and not just for him, but for our club, I think he's got eyes on him with the refs at the moment. And I don't know how he then reins that back in and has that controlled aggression when the referees are looking for any sign of that at the moment, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him spend a little bit more time in the bin, possibly when it's not even justified.
Steve, this one's got me a bit concerned. Jaden Sullivan and Brent Naden will both be too hard to sell and happy to just sit there in reserve grade in 2025. Buy or sell?
No, I'm selling that. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the pod. I am of the opinion, it's just my own opinion, I don't have any information or anything like that. I think that those comments that have come up in the last couple of days saying they're going to be, or no, Sullivan said it last week, we're going to be happy just to sit out our contracts here. We want to be part of the Tigers. I think that's a tactic to make the Tigers pay more money for them to go to another club. That's where I think that sits, and I reckon they'll both be gone.
Okay.
I really love that you just had to sell that. They were too hard to sell.
I changed my question on the run because I'm frustrated at this situation because, I mean, to be fair, Steve, to Jaden Sullivan, I mean, if you put yourself in his shoes, you'd be thinking, well, you blokes gave me $600,000 for 4 years. And now 2 months later, but basically 100%. Before he played a game, you're saying you don't want me. So stuff you guys, I'm going to stick around.
Yeah, and he might really believe in himself and want to have a red hot dig, like he was really poor at the beginning of the season. And I don't know where you'd put him right now, but it's not really poor. He's improved. He's played some.
It's not really poor. It's just poor.
Yeah, well, maybe. Right? That's why I said I don't know where you'd put him, but he is having a dig. He's having a go. He's trying, and you got to give him credit for that. And if he wants to stay and really, push for a spot, good luck to him. But again, it comes back to what we said earlier, right? Roster spot. If we want to find a better quality player, then we've got to convince him to move on.
For me, with Sullivan, I think, especially Sullivan, when the pressure's put on, I don't think he's going to have a lot of choice. If you turn around and you tell a guy who's 24, who hasn't cemented a first grade spot at a club yet, that you're going to be playing him in reserve grade regardless, then he's 24. If he spends the next 3 years playing reserve grade football, that's his career. So I think when there's a little bit of pressure put on in this situation, and I hate these situations, because if he wants to stay, he's quite entitled to. But I think Richardson's going to be a guy who'll put a bit of pressure on in this situation, and I don't see him staying once that pressure's put on, because even if you are getting paid big money sitting in reserve grade for the next 3 years, that's not a good career move for him at this point in time. He's not like Russell Packer a few years ago, who was at the end of his career and sitting in reserve grade for a couple of years on a good wicket worked out really well for him.
The
Jaden Sullivan's a lot
Gary, I have
younger.
is you might have to have a suitor in the NRL, because if he doesn't want to go to England, he doesn't want to go to England.
Yeah. Look, it definitely is a possibility. With the lack of halves, though, I think at some point someone in the NRL will probably maybe give him a shot. And I know I said he's gone from being really poor to being poor. I think he's been better than poor the last couple of games he played. I thought that game against St. George he was quite strong until he went and did something stupid and got himself sin binned. If he hadn't had that issue in that game, I think that would have been considered a fairly good game from him. But he went and did something really stupid. So to say that he's still playing poor football is a little bit harsh on my part. But I do hope he can find a home somewhere else, because I think we do need that roster spot, and it's a really bad contract we've got him on.
Just been like that. That's what I was going to say, Steve. It's just a really bad signing. And I'm not taking a personal shot at him then, but just when you read about what's happened when Galvin was coming through and they went out and signed Finu. Obviously, they didn't know they were going to get Jerome Luai over the line, but even today I was reading about this young kid, Onatini Large, okay, who goes to Scots. People rank him the best 16-year-old in Australia playing league or union at the moment. Okay, he's only 16, but we heard that about Joseph Suwali, and he's turned out pretty good. He captains the junior Wallabies, and he's played for New South Wales Blues League under 16s. Apparently, there's 12 clubs interested in him. Tim Sheen signed him for 5 years as one of his, I suppose, a parting gift maybe from Tim Sheen's. His manager came out, who is I don't know who he is, Craig Baker, and he said they sold us a pathway to first grade under Tim. They've subsequently made a lot of decisions that don't correlate to that, and that refers to me to Jaden Sullivan. Like, that was just a signing that I can't remember. Maybe we said it was a bit of a risk. I can't remember what I said at the time about Jaden Sullivan, but there's going to be. You can see why the Tigers want to move him on, because already Galvin's agitating, and you've got this 16-year-old who's apparently a freak who's getting restless as well.
There were so many knee-jerk reactions from the last administration that it wasn't funny, and usually knee-jerk reactions to bad press and bad vibe from the fan base. And when you look back on it, it's sort of hard to believe that those pressures have put us in the position that we're in now, and we're still going to keep feeling, love him or loathe him and believe in him or not. Benji, as head coach, was a knee-jerk reaction to a negative situation. All these halves that are now in the club as a knee-jerk reaction to Mitchell Moses. And I remember saying I couldn't understand. We were still looking for an elite half. I know we didn't have the name. And I'm thinking, well, why are we buying all these other blokes? I remember saying that on the pod. Why are we buying these guys? Right? We still want the elite half. Don't just buy someone, buy the person we want. Now, because we didn't, we end up with too many. So yeah, it's we're going to feel that pain for a little while yet.
It's an interesting one, Gary, because even though it's too many halves, it's better than no halves. Like, the West Tigers have got some of the best junior talent coming through, I reckon, in the country. If you consider the raps that Finu came with, what Galvin's done, and this Onatini Large, it's probably an enviable position to be in some respects.
Yeah, and look, I will defend the decision of signing Sullivan a little bit, and I think I said it at the time. It was just after Luke Brooks had left. Wakeham was gone. Adam Dewey was out for the majority of the season. We literally had no halves. We At that point in time, we didn't have any halves moving into this season to start the year. So I can understand the signing. What's not good about the signing is it's on 500,000 and it's for 4 years. So I understand getting him into the club. We needed to get someone like him into the club to get us through this year. But the length of it's the issue. I understand the Aiden Sullivan signing, and I think that's a beautiful signing the way they've done that. A guy that could come in for 12 months and
Aiden
fulfill that
Caesar.
role for what did I say? Aiden Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Yeah, Aiden Caesar. I think that's a really good signing. The fact that it's a 1 year contract and it allows us to transition into Luai, who's coming next year. But that Sullivan one, I guess they needed the money and the length of time to get him over the line. But that's where it's an issue. It's not so much about signing him; it's signing him for 4 years.
We haven't seen this.
I don't want to go
Sorry,
over
Steve,
spilt.
okay.
Yeah, sorry. Man. I don't want to go over like spilt milk. We've been over this a million times, but I just feel that process you just talked through, Gary. There, it just reeks of no strategy and no forward planning and just who was first? Was Sullivan or Caesar first?
Can't remember.
Sullivan, I think, was
Yeah,
first.
so Sullivan, okay, so you get Sullivan, and then you're still looking for the elite half, but then you also get Caesar. Now, I agree, Caesar was a good signing, but if we wanted Caesar, then we shouldn't have got Sullivan, and we should have had Caesar and the elite half, because we were always saying that there were good halves coming through. Because then we brought Fano in as well, and I don't know where he fit chronologically, but he was coming in as well, and Galvin was coming through, and look, there's another bloke coming through too. They said I can't remember who.
So
But,
at this point last year, you would have been happy to bank going into this season,
I
relying
said it, mate.
on Galvin to.
Oh no, not
Because
Galvin. No,
To
not
be fair,
Galvin.
like, yeah, I mean, Gary, we were talking about this in the preseason, saying Sullivan's the odd one out, and is it before he played a game for the club?
It is, but I don't think we were. Steve was probably saying it, but I don't think we're saying it that much when that signing was made.
Okay.
Because we had just lost Luke Brooks. We were never going to keep Wakeham, and we had Adam Dewey on the sidelines for an extended period. We needed someone. We needed two halves to go into this season. We couldn't just sign Aiden. Nearly did again. We couldn't just sign Aiden Caesar and roll into this season, because you would have been relying on an 18-year-old in Galvin, or you would have been relying on an 18-year-old in Fainu. And for me, that would have been disastrous planning. It probably would have worked out okay, because Galvin made the step up that he's made, but it would have been a huge risk to go in with that kind of inexperience.
Putting Sullivan aside, Gary, like it's going to probably come to a head in the next year if this kid is as good as they say he is. This Onatini Large, he's probably more than 12 months away from first graders, 16-year-old. But what do you do if you're the Tigers? I suppose you hold the aces and you just may say, mate, you've got a contract. But when you're looking at Fainu, Galvin, potentially Large, only one of them can partner Luai going forward.
At some point, you're going to have to make a decision, and hopefully we're going to be the club that makes the right decision. Penrith is making these sort of decisions all the time at the moment, because they just have wave after wave of junior teams coming through that are winning competitions all through their junior ranks. And they've got to make the right decisions on who you let go and who you keep at the club. Hopefully we're going to be better at that than we have in the past, and that we're going to have the right guys going into our top 30 squad, because it's going to be so crucial that we're in a rebuild now. For us to get that rebuild right, those decisions around who we keep and who we let go need to be spot on. Because I don't think you're going to fit them all into a top 30.
All right, Gary, I'm going to ask you just an unfair question before I let you off the hook.
You wouldn't do that to me, Eddie.
Going to be 2027 or 2028, and you say, all right, we want one of these kids to partner Luai for the next 3 or 4 years, who would you choose?
What I'd like to see is you have probably Fainu playing at 5'8" and Galvin playing at lock, and I'm not going to really put too much weight in Large yet, because he's 16, and even though his manager's saying he could be possibly playing NRL at the end of next year, I don't want to put that pressure on a young kid. So I'll be hoping to have Fainu at 5'8" and Galvin at lock.
Steve, question number I'm not sure what number it is, but it's a question. West Tigers can avoid the wooden spoon after their win over the Gold Coast on the weekend. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell it. I've seen this. I've seen this TV show before. You know, we
Horror show, I think it's called,
yeah,
Steve.
yeah, it is on late at night, 11:30. Yeah, it's
Yes.
you know, we have a good game, or you know, and look, let's not get carried away. Okay, the Titans were horrendous. I'm so pleased we won. We got 2 points. I watched it today and I enjoyed watching it and got a buzz out of the win, just like everyone else did. But I could not believe how bad the Titans were. We still missed. I don't know what the final count was.
49 tackles.
Yeah, okay, because it was 35 just on half time missed tackles, right? So and some of the missed tackles through the middle, a couple of them coming to mind were just terrible misses. You know, just not have been switched on to get across in defence. So no, I don't think we'll avoid it, unfortunately.
Steve, we've been complaining about how we keep beating ourselves all season. Isn't it nice for us?
Yeah,
isn't it nice for someone else to beat themselves?
Yes, absolutely. You know, well, I spend a bit of time with you, so I'm used to seeing someone beat themselves. But you might have to edit that out, actually.
No, we're not editing that out. I agree with you, Steve.
Which bit?
I agree with the fact that they won't avoid the spoon because, and I'd love nothing more than to finish 16th, and that sounds very defeatist, but I think it'd just be a big weight off the club's shoulders. But I just didn't see enough in that game to think, one, the Gold Coast won't shoot themselves in the foot and win a few more games, and two, that we can go on that streak. Although Gary Jordan did say we're going to win 3 in a row. If we win this week, we bagged him. We bagged him. If we win,
I was thinking it earlier tonight. If we do, and it's not impossible to get a win against Canberra. They've been up and down all year.
Unfortunately, we got the Roosters the week after.
Yeah, I know. Look, we'll worry about that when we get to it, mate. Counting the 3, you got to get to 2 first.
Right, last one, and this is, we could spend 25 minutes on this, but we're not going to. So you're only allowed one word because it was on the West Tigers forum, and it was a fairly general sort of question, but it got a lot of responses. Steve, the future is bright. Buy, sell, or hold?
Buy.
Gary?
So bright, I'm buying sunglasses.
Is that Steve? You sort of thought about that. Gary took the piss out of the question, but Steve, is that because Shane Richardson? You're saying it's bright?
Yeah. Plus, I do believe. Look, we can go back. We've talked about this so much, but I still believe that there's good footballers in the squad we've got, and I think with some of the guys coming through and what they are showing, that they can become. And you know, we've got 2 good players coming next year, 2 seasoned first graders, good first grade footballers. And if we can hold on to Steph or replace him if he goes with someone better, then we are on the right track. And I do have faith that Richardson is going to be able to negotiate a lot better than the last, than what's happened in the past.
So top 8 next year, Steve?
Top 8 this year, mate. It's mathematically possible.
We take on the Raiders, boys, at 4:00 Sunday at Campbelltown. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about the ambush event beforehand?
Yeah, I will. And just in doing that, I'll just also mention that the West Tigers today launched their Empower program, which is their community arm, and that the Empower program has 2 main focuses, which is discussing and working on and helping around with youth unemployment, and also raising awareness and domestic violence. They've going into schools. They've got a 6-school pilot program, and they're going to be working in schools around those 2 key areas and looking at leadership and career advice and developing healthy relationships. So that all kicked off today, and that's under the leadership of Sean Mealcamp, who's the general manager of Community Foundation and Affiliates. And Sean was the CEO, am I right there? CEO
of the Mariners.
Of the Mariners, yeah. So Sean is a really experienced sports administrator and leader. And the reason I said all that is because, well, one, it's a great initiative and we should know a little bit about it. But 2, he's going to be our guest at the ambush on Sunday. So he'll be there, and Gary will be interviewing him. He'll be there to talk about that program and what it means for the West Tigers and what he wants to see it become and what the club want to see it become. And also he'll be happy to have a chat about how the club is progressing, from within inside the four walls. Kelly and I met with him earlier this week, and he was really positive about what's happening inside the four walls of the West Tigers. So it'd be great to hear him talk about that at the Ambush event. So that's at the Beer Shed at Holylee Road in Lamia. It's from 2 p.m. So come along, as Sean will be there. We'll do a Lottie's quiz. We'll have some giveaways. We'll do a bit of a podcast discussion. Then we'll head on over and watch the Tigers play the Raiders.
And we have donuts.
Yes, good point. We have free donuts for the first 50 people, or if Gary turns up, with the first 4 or 5 people. But we'll see what happens.
It's an interesting guest to have, boys, because I know he's not a coach, Steve, but he was like the Mariners fans spoke very highly. He was part of them getting, I think, consecutive wooden spoons, turning around into becoming premiers.
Yeah, he's got a real good mindset around where this club's heading, because he's seen it before, and he's a bit like Richardson. So together, they're coming from a really good set of experiences, really, because they've done this elsewhere. Yeah.
Boys, we've lost the last 8 against the Raiders and lost the last 10 at Campbelltown. So that's such a grim statistic. But let's talk team changes first, Gary. Appy back to hooker, Galvin back to 6. Talon De Silva to the bench. Do you like all that?
Yeah, I do. I think that's Appy got our West Tigers podcast man of the match on the weekend. Had a really strong game, but I think his game is much more suited to playing that hooker role, and I think he's one of the best hookers in the game. Shouldn't be playing this weekend because he should be in the State of Origin side. So I'm really happy to have him back at hooker, and I think Galvin provides a little bit more creativity that we've been lacking all season, even when he's been there. But I think he's the most creative ever of our halves so far this season. So it's really good to have him back in that position. And we need to give Appy a break and get Talon De Silva onto the field at some point and get him some time.
Stay with you, Gary, because you saw him play last week. I thought Kit Lalili, I'm not sure if that pronunciation is correct, but I know he debuted last year in the last game against Manly. I thought he was clearly our second best player on the field behind Dewey. He looks like he's going to get his first game of the year on the bench. What do you expect his role to be?
Yeah, I don't think he'll play big minutes. I think he'll get on there and in that back row, possibly in the lock position somewhere. In saying that, I want to see Matamua spend more time in that lock role. I know he had a few defensive issues on the weekend, but I think our attack looks much better when he's in that role. But I just want Kit to go out there and do his role. He's a young guy. I don't want to put too high of expectations on him. 30 minutes probably max, and get him out there and just doing a role for the team. I think that's all I want to see from him.
Doesn't look like Steve will get the 2 debutants from last week. Jordan Miller, very, very interesting prospect for me. Raw, but a lot of ability there. And Heath Mason, who really impressed me. Looks like he's been named on the extended number 18, but he's also named at fullback in New South Wales Cup.
Yeah, I'd say they've had a bit of a taste now. They'll be going back to work on it. But I agree with you. Like a couple of times I've seen Heath Mason, I've been impressed. He's pretty nippy. Looks quite sharp. Jordan Miller, he looks like he could become a beast. Like he needs an off season, obviously, but he's only very young. But he could be anything. Get some aggression into him and get him toughen him up a bit.
Yeah, I saw Willie Mason talking about him, and he would know. He said, "Mate, I saw this kid playing for the Tigers." He said, "If he could just get fitter and lose 10 kilos, he could be anything because he looks like he's got a bit of ball skill."
Yeah,
bit of footwork.
I noticed that when he was hitting the defensive line, I noticed a few times he was looking around for someone to offload to, and he didn't do it. Like, he was probably the guy mightn't have been there, but he probably didn't want to, have an unforced error first game, first grade. But it looks like he's a keen offloader, which would be great to get some second phase play happening.
Gary, the Raiders, how do we beat the Raiders? I mean, they've got a pretty simple game plan against us. Usually it's Ricky Stewart saying we're bigger, stronger, faster. We're going to run over the top of them. So what do we do?
Yeah, we've got to hold them in the middle. I think it's as simple as that. It needs to be a low-scoring game. I don't think we're going to be have many games this year where we're scoring more than 20 points. I was really pleased we got to 18. So it's really going to have to be a game where we really hold that middle, don't let them get in down to our end of the field, and take our chances when they actually come up. Too many times this year we've missed chances when they've been there. I think we will probably create maybe 4 chances in the game, genuine try scoring chances, and to win this game we've got to take 3 of them.
Prediction time. Steve, I'll start off. I'm going to go 32-16 Raiders. I think we're going to be better than we have been, over the past month at times because of the confidence of a win. But I just don't think the Raiders are going to give the game up like the Gold Coast will.
No, the thing about the Raiders, like my tip would be about 20-12 Raiders. I think they'll beat us. The thing about the Raiders, they never look like they're winning football games. Then they get to the end of the game and they're ahead, right? They've just got such a great culture of never giving up. And so for us to have any chance, what Gary said, I agree 100%. We've got to hold them in the middle, but we've just got to play in the game for 80 minutes and not have those 15, 20-minute periods where we fall asleep, because the game will be lost in those moments if we do.
Gary, you tipped us to win last week. Are you going to do the same?
Did I tip us to win? On the pod I didn't, but by game time, the confidence.
You did on the pod. You ummed and ahed, and it didn't sound very convincing, but you did say 26-22.
Did I? Wow. Well, I don't think we'll score 26 points this week. I do think we can get away with a win. I think part of it is it's not often you go 8 games against a side losing all of them. It's not often you go to a ground and you lose 10 in a row. We're due for both of those things to end. So based on the laws of probability, I'm going to say we're going to get an 18-16 win.
Great to see, because I do feel sorry for the people that, if they only get the Campbelltown games, or the kids that follow the Tigers in the MacArthur region. It'd be great to see them get a win out there on Sunday. So, Steve, you have a new role. Well, it's not a new role because you've done it once before, but I thought you were solid first up, so you're going to host the quiz again.
Yeah,
promotion for Steve.
I was better than solid. That's for sure. It's probably the best the quiz has ever been hosted. But so we're going to give another go. But before I do, Eddie, I just do want to do another plug, mate. Sorry.
Take it over. I like it.
Yeah, I know. I'm hosting next week.
The Steve Stratton Show.
On the 11th of August, and I can't remember what round it is, but 11th of August, Sunday, 11th of August, West Tigers are playing the Knights up at Newcastle, and we are taking a bus. Joel is going to be driving the bus up to Newcastle. We're going to do a Lumia pickup and a Concord pickup. We'll stop at Wyong for lunch, and we'll reverse out on the way home, stop again for dinner, and then do a drop off at Concord Lumia again. It's $50 a ticket for adults, or $35 for seniors or kids. So if you want to come on the bus trip with all the forum guys and the ambush guys, and we'll probably have a podcast on the bus home like we did last time, come along and join in the fun with us. So the way you get onto that is you go to our webpage, West Tigers Podcast webpage, and look up Game Day Coach Transport, click on the link, and you can sign up. So yeah, that's that one. So now the quiz.
Ready to go.
All right, Yachty's quiz. Here it is. Question 1. In which month was our infamous snow game against the Raiders played? Was it A, May, B, June, C, July, or D, August?
Well, I know it was year 2000. I remember watching the game at home, and I remember some kid, it's probably still on YouTube, threw a massive snowball at the commentator on the sideline.
Sean
Garlick, and hit him in the head. And Sean Garlick maintained his composure, but it was about round 18 or 19. So in Canberra snow, I'm going to go, it's either late June or July. I'll go June.
Gary?
I was going to go June, but I'll go July.
Well, you're both wrong, so that's 1 point to me. It was May.
Oh, that's the year that the Olympics were on, so we started in summer.
And it was Sunday, the 28th of May. I remember it like it was yesterday down at Bruce Stadium. All right, true or false? Question 2. Chris Lawrence scored the last try in our 2010 do or die semi-finals game against the Raiders in Canberra.
No, I think he scored maybe the third try.
That's false.
Was it Chris Hyington who scored? I'm going to go false.
Both going false. All right, it's true. That's 2 to me. Our only try in the second half with Chris Hynington
Oh, Lottie
Gareth
made a
Ellis.
break. I remember it now.
and Lottie Dakiri all scoring in the first half. Yeah, that's right. So 2-0 to Steve. All right, question 3.
This will be the only time Steve's ever won a quiz.
I won it last time I hosted too, mate. Previous to Heath Mason last weekend, in which season did a West Tigers player last wear headgear? I'll give you a clue.
Not Liam Fulton.
It wasn't Braith and Nasser because they weren't supplied for free.
Hey, you're giving him a rap this week, Steve.
Actually, I was too.
Can you tell us if it was an outside back or a forward, or is it some unknown player no one's heard of?
It was a forward. It was a forward.
Was he renowned for wearing headgear? Not sure.
For his time at the Tigers, he hasn't been renowned for anything.
So we're only saying the year, aren't we? Was it the year?
Yeah.
Last person to wear headgear. Oh, the
No,
year.
the year.
The year.
2013.
I'll go 2014.
All right. 3-0. It was Isaiah Papali'i this year.
I was thinking about that. Someone who got like a head knock or something.
Yeah, in our 2014 loss against the Knights in Tamworth.
Now I don't know if it's Yachty's questions or Steve's hosting. It's not a great quiz.
Ooh, that sounds like a shot at Yachty to me.
Oh, this wouldn't be the Gary Watson that we all know so well. He's not winning. So well, you stopped tipping after about round 5 last year because you hadn't tipped a winner, didn't you? I bet you're still tipping this year, right?
I'm winning this year.
That's right. Okay, question 4. Even though you're not into it, Gary, how many West Tigers players have played for the West Tigers and the Queensland Maroons in the same year? Nearest to the pin. How many West Tigers players have played for the West Tigers and the Queensland Maroons in the same year?
4.
Harry Grant, Scott Prince, poor Moses Mbai, and someone else, Gary. I'm going to go with 4, but I named them, so I win surely.
And it's 5.
The answer is 3.
I named them all.
So, yeah, I think Eddie gets the points. You did too, Eddie. Yeah, Scott Prince, 2004, played 3 games. Mbai, 2019 with 3 games. And
how did Moses Mbai make Origin? That's outrageous.
Because he's a Queenslander and they don't have that many players.
He was pulling on
They
that
win every
jersey.
year, Gary.
Yeah, but they don't have a big pool of players to select from. And there's more New South Wales players.
That it? Is there no Who Am I this week?
No, there's one more. That one. No, it's not a who am I though. All right. At which 3 New South Wales stadiums did Bryce Gibbs score his 3 West Tigers career tries?
Acor, so Wayne said.
He got one on debut against Penrith at Penrith, I think, and then the grand final, Acor, and I'll go random. I'll go Win Stadium.
I'm going the Footy Stadium.
All right, so it's interesting you guys said Acor because the grand final was actually played at Telstra Stadium.
Same place.
Well, it wasn't Acor, it was Telstra. And the other 2 are Penrith and Leichhardt.
There you go.
And then he actually scored 3 tries for West Tigers and he scored 1 try for the Sharks, Bryce Gibbs, so 4 tries in his career. And that is Yachty's quiz, done and dusted.
Thank you, Steve. I think I won though, Gary. I think I'll take a 1-0, like a soccer game, a dull 1-0 victory. I'll take it.
Yeah, you can have that victory.
All right, boys. It's been a long podcast for midweek, but plenty of content as usual. Hopefully, we can get another win. I'm Steve. I'm thinking, the time frame's not going to work for me Sunday night because, 4:00 game. I'm still going to be angry if we lose. 8:30 podcast. I'm thinking it's going to be Joel hosting, maybe with Declan only on Sunday night.
Weren't you having a sook about Declan not coming on when we lose games?
I was having a sook, but I have turned up. I might still turn up, so we'll have to wait and see. Steve, are you going to be? You probably won't be on Sunday because you're doing
No, I'm going to go to the game. Then I'm staying in town in Sydney, so I'll hop a train.
Going on the Chairman's Lounge again?
Yeah, and no, not the Chairman's Lounge this time. Just roughing it in the premium reserve seats.
All right, thanks, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.